Welcome, welcome, welcome. This session is Do the Right Thing at the Right Time, Navigating in Your Season. And we're super excited about tonight. And we want to thank everyone for joining us. This session came out of our last session.
Last month, we showed you 7 steps to make your positive changes permanent. And this was one of the steps. Know what season you're in. And somebody requested that we do a deep dive into this one so that we can fully understand it. So that's exactly what we're going to do tonight.
So before we get started, if you already don't know the cadence, is that we do have a free download, and it is covering the content, but it's a really good to have, where it goes through some of the questions, additional questions beyond what we're going to cover today. So this is a really good tool for you, and it's available. If you have not downloaded it, we recommend you go to projectfindyourfire.com and download that tool.
It's really kind of important because the questions are very, very specific to help you navigate this. And when you're done with those questions, it's going to give you a real awareness of what season you're really in and how to navigate through that so you can look forward to those other seasons that are going to be coming up.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about why it's important to understand your seasons. Why is it important? Kind of a little bit about the seasons, and then we'll talk a little bit more what it means to define a season. But let's understand, why is it important to know where you are in a season?
Well, it's important to know where you are in a season and what season you're in, because the things you do in your life are going to fall into place easier. I always use the analogy, having a beautiful garden is great, but if you try to plant your garden in the middle of winter, you aren't going to bear any fruit. If you do the right thing at the wrong time, the result will be pain. And so by being aware of what season you're going through in your life, and we'll show you how this relates to everybody's life, then you can take the appropriate steps to make the season great.
So I want to add to that, because what we get for some of our questions is there an ideal season, or how can I maybe not go through some of the challenges within the season? And I want to be very clear, we all go through these seasons and they look different for everyone. There's joys and challenges within every one of the seasons. And one of the key things when we look at navigating through it is understanding that you get more joy when you have an awareness of what season you're in. Then you can see the joys, you can enjoy them even further. And then when you see the challenges and understand where the challenges are coming from, then that awareness allows you to actually navigate those challenges and understand the value. And when we navigate, there's value in the challenges so that we can reap those rewards, get through that season, and then move to another season. And it is very much something that everyone goes through. And I don't know, I guess we like seasons because when you're aware of them, you can support other people. We can support each other, and we can get through those and really celebrate the joyful things and get through the challenges.
Right. So let's talk about how the seasons work. There are a couple of things you need to understand before we get into the seasons proper. First of all, the seasons are not a beginning to end timeline like a lot of people think. We think of spring, summer, winter, or fall and winter, which are our seasons, but spring isn't our birth and winter isn't our death. These are cyclical seasons. You will go through spring, summer, fall, and winter, and then spring, summer, fall, and winter. The next thing to remember is that the seasons, unlike the seasons of nature, may not go in order. You may go spring, summer, something happens in your life, suddenly you're in winter. Then you jump to winter, and then you go from winter into spring again, and then into summer, and then into fall. Oh, and then suddenly something happens in your life and you find yourself back at spring again. You've skipped winter. This is all good. You have to let it happen. You cannot force the seasons. You have to let them happen in your life. So this is an awareness step so that you can make the proper decisions. Another thing to remember
is that the time or the length that you may be in a season could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year. And there's no perfect time, except at the time that we're aware and we allow ourselves to grow in that season.
Now, here's a tricky one, because you've heard us talk about the different areas of our life, and there are 8 areas of our life, and we'll remind you of those. Those are your friends and social area of your life,
Your career
your
and
career,
business,
your family,
fitness and health,
your mind and your emotions,
your spiritual or spiritual being,
your finances,
and you're going to test me on the 8th one, and
starts with an R.
relationships.
The 8th one is relationships. So our lives are divided up into those areas. Now, each area of your life may have its own subseason, but you're going to have an overall season for your life as well. If that sounds complicated, just let that sit for a moment, because as we talk through this, this might make more sense to you.
Yeah, and it probably will make more sense as we go through and talk about the seasons and give you some examples. But the rubber is going to meet the road when we start evaluating and answering the questions that are also in the handout. So really, this whole session and this workshop that we're doing is going to have 4 big takeaways for you. And this is the value in this session. We're going to really look at the season that you think you're in, now that you have kind of this new awareness that you have seasons, and maybe you've had a sense of feeling like you're in a different place, or you're feeling kind of not in alignment. Well, sometimes it's just understanding and awareness of what season you're in. So we're going to look and evaluate, where do you think you are? And then we're going to really look at, where are you truly? Where have we created a new awareness, and where are you really in kind of that overall? But we will start looking at specific areas of your life.
Those are really important. The season you believe you are in versus the season that you are really in, because when we get to a time of year, we might believe that we're ready for something new, we're ready to get going. But once you start evaluating where you are in your life, you might really find that you're not in spring at all. As much as you want to be, as much as you want to be ready to add something new to your life, you really might not be ready for it. And the last 2 takeaways that we're going to show you are 3 things that can give you the most benefit with each season. And we're going to show you a vision of how amazing the next season is, because that's seasons. We don't want to be stuck in a season. We don't want to make that our life. We don't want to live in winter all of our life. We want to look forward, and we're going to show you exactly how to do that.
Yeah, and there's some things when we talk about the seasons, you're going to see how diversely different they are, and where Kelly used the example, we don't want to be sitting in winter too long, but you can't force your way out of a season. But we can get really excited about the benefits of where we are and the newness or the next season that we will reap additional rewards from, because it's always about growth, and there's growth in every one of these. Like I said, there's going to be joys and challenges, but this is the key in our evolution and our development, is that we're always growing. So every season has an opportunity to learn and grow.
All right. So without further ado, let's get into the seasons.
Okay. Well, let's just talk about there's 4 seasons, and you mentioned them,
Yes.
but let's just highlight what they are again, so people can know that we're going to cover these 4 again.
Okay.
Kind of like the Earth seasons.
Right. We'll give you the Earth season, and then we'll tell you what we like to call it. We're going to go through a spring. We're going to go through several springs in our life, and we call that our rebirth.
And then we're going to talk about a season of nurturing and growing.
And that's our summer. And then we're going to talk about our fall, which is our reaping the rewards season.
And the season of winter, and Kelly loves this season, is loss and cleansing. And he's going to talk a lot about this one. This is one of his favorite seasons.
I don't know why I'm drawn to winter, but I kind of am, and you're going to find out.
I am not.
Okay, so let's start with spring. We're just going to follow the earth seasons, nature's seasons for us, and we'll start there. Now understand, again, these are cyclical. You're going to go through many springs, rebirths in your life, and they may last any length of time. But the spring is all about, the rebirth is all about adding something new to your life. A new change. Perhaps it's a new job, a new relationship. Maybe it's adding a new hobby and interest. Maybe it's a change that was forced upon you that is something new. Maybe you had lost your job. Maybe your girlfriend left you. Maybe you don't have a choice about this newness in your life.
So when I look at spring in particular, it is sometimes looked at as something that we want. We want to have a change, and then we have a decision, make a decision, do something, and change is created. We've created that change for us, and we think that's very positive. You as the person who's making the change thinks that's positive, and we think it's great when people take initiative and make change. But we also, and I don't know if this is where you were going to add to, is we also recognize that the universe is also creating change around us. And some of that change out of our control does reap great rewards to us. There are things that, you hear these stories where people are maybe in a fender bender and that like led to something amazing happen. So sometimes we gotta to look beyond the physical moment in time and look at the season of what the newness is creating, not necessarily the event. So a lot of events, you'll hear us talk about events, sometimes trigger us into a season. Sometimes they trigger us, out of a season, but the event itself is not really the focus. It's really what word am I looking for? The things that happen after the event, the outcome of the event, which again, positive, there's challenges in new things. There's challenges when we don't make decisions. Sometimes it's just the emotional challenges of understanding that we didn't make that decision and that decision was, forced upon us. But spring offers a lot of opportunity for us to grow towards our goals.
Right. And that's one of the big things. We always want, something new, something better, something more interesting for ourselves. And when we work with our clients in coaching, they come to us and they're like, we're ready for a new life. We're ready to do this. That's great. And we can do that. But our first job is to figure out what season you're in, because you may not be ready to add new things to your routine. You might be in a season of cutting things out of your life so that you can start making room for this spring, for this new rebirth. We have to work through those seasons through the spring, or whatever season we're in, I guess, and you can't force it. A great example for rebirth is our New Year's resolutions. Each year, at the beginning of the year, we make these New Year's resolutions, and eventually we reach that age where we quit making New Year's resolutions because we never follow through on them. A simple reason for that is on January 1st, you might not be in spring in your life. You might not be ready for that new fitness routine, that new diet, that new stop smoking, that new whatever it might be. You might be in a very different season in your life that you can't even think about taking on something new.
Yes. And some of spring, if you think about, is planting the seeds. So changing the mindset, planting the ideas, planning, that might be spring. And then as we go through the other seasons, you'll see where some of that grows and we do other things. So spring looks different. I mean, we give you the concepts, right? But it actually, your particular, if you are in spring or you recognize spring for you, it's going to look completely different for somebody else, because our journeys are all different, and what triggers us in and out of a season is going to be different, and how we ourselves evaluate things that are defined as new and how we define our challenges and joys.
That's a good point too. The entire process doesn't take place in spring. That's just the beginning. And as we work through these areas, I'll show you how this grows and develops.
Winter could be the beginning too.
Cleansing. It's the cleansing. Yeah.
Yeah. So they don't go in necessarily in order. We just started with spring. I like spring. So we started with my favorite one.
All right. So let's go on then to nurturing and growth. This is nature's summer.
Oh, we should ask some questions though on spring.
Oh,
we forgot to ask the questions.
The questions in your workbook.
Yes.
We're going to ask you things like, what are some of the new things put in your life? And then understanding in that question that these may have been changes forced upon you. Secondly, we're going to ask you what new things have you specifically added to your life? Because we cannot control what has been forced upon us. We cannot control that that has happened. We can control how we respond to it. We can also control what things we are adding.
And then we look at actually breaking that down. And the question is, what areas have you created those changes in? So when we looked at those 8 areas of our life wheel, we really want to now narrow down to where particularly are those new things happening? Because like we said at the beginning, you have an overall season that your life is in, but you may or may not be in that same season within those individual life wheel areas. So just be aware where you maybe are in spring in one area and maybe you're not.
And we'll talk about how these puzzle pieces are going to fit together towards the end. What are the pros of the new things that you've added? What are the benefits you're getting from that? What are the cons of the new things that you're added? What are the struggles that you've added?
So again, I'm just going to do a really quick reminder here that the point again of the seasons is the awareness, so that you can navigate with an awareness of where you are, making an awareness of the decisions you maybe should or shouldn't make based on the seasons, based on who you are, knowing what you know about yourself and now know where you are in the season. It is not to force or change what season you are by force, but naturally through awareness and the excitement of celebrating the joys and challenges in that season, you naturally and organically will start to grow into another season.
The next season up is our season of nurturing and growth. This is equivalent to our nature's summer season. Now, this is a season where you love and nurture and care for these things, these seeds that you planted, those delicate seeds, so that they can bloom and blossom into something beautiful when we get to fall. That's what nurturing and growth is about. Now, understand that nurturing and growth season is not about adding something new to your life. Many times it's about removing something from your life. In your garden, we have to weed our gardens so that our weeds don't encroach on our beautiful plants, so that our plants can grow up healthy and strong. We have to do the same thing for ourselves in our life. As we grow and develop, weeds, people, places, things, thoughts are going to show up that are trying to hold us back, that are encroaching on our growth.
Yeah, so I was going to give a couple examples as you were talking about that reminded me of. But one of the things to be aware is that when we're in this nurturing and growing, we have taken some of the things from spring, some of the changes and the newness in our mindset, in our physical approach to things. We maybe don't have our physical changes that are our goal, but we have planted the seeds and we need to start creating, those habits, and those need to be nurtured. So when you talk about people, places, time, resources, and energy that we need to put in, those are the things that we need to focus on. And what I wanted to add to this is I'm very, very notorious for being in like a summer and then thinking that I want to add more to my list. And then what happens is I get distracted from the areas that I've planted the seeds and I've made the change, and now I'm not able to maintain it, right? So then I end up going back to spring, or maybe even to a winter, because I didn't focus and nurture, and I wasn't aware that I needed to not add anymore. I needed to focus, and you talk about removing stuff, but it's also focusing your energies and your time and your resources in that area.
Let's take a specific example. A fitness routine is what comes to mind. I mean, there are many different things in your life, and this is applicable to everybody, no matter what it is, but I'm going to use fitness routine because it popped into my mind, and this is an easy one to walk through. Let's say you're in the time of spring in your life, and you're ready for a change, you're ready for something new, and so your health and wellness and your vitality is important to you, so you begin a fitness routine. You buy the equipment and you start doing your routine little by little, and that's the rebirth, the spring. You're planting those seeds. Eventually, you're going to come a time in your life, however far down the road, where the roadblocks are going to start showing up. Those weeds are going to start encroaching. Your own thoughts I'm too tired to work out today. I don't have time to work out today. Those friends who invite you to the Cheesecake Factory, even though they know that you're on a fitness routine and a new diet, those are weeds encroaching on your planting. You're trying to nurture it and grow it into something beautiful. And these people and these places, those establishments you visit that aren't very attractive to fitness and wealth and vitality, are fun to go to.
But you gotta weed them
You
out.
gotta pull that weed. If you want to continue to nurture and grow and love the seeds that you've planted, those roadblocks are going to show up.
And that doesn't mean you planted the wrong seeds.
Right.
I mean, again, this is an awareness. This is awareness where if you focus on it, maybe there is a little bit of some tweaking you do because you have this awareness now because you planted the seeds and they're growing a certain way, and maybe the way they're growing is different. But now is not the time to give up, and now is not the time to add more things. Now it's sitting in that space of
Right.
who you are and what you want. And you've done a lot of work in this example in spring for fitness, and now you have the work that you need to do, which is different work in nurturing and growth.
Right. So understanding spring, we're planting the seed, just planting. Summer's going to come along, it's growing, we nurture it, we love it. We have to get those weeds out. As fast as those weeds come, we have to keep pulling them out and getting them away from our seedlings.
So just a reminder, that is, again, time, resources, friends, social events. You want to really surround yourself. And the other thing that's really important too, and we don't talk about it in here, but came to mind, is communicating with people what your priorities are.
Exactly. The supporters are going to come out too. Those people who are helping you nurture and grow, those people are going to help you weed out the things that are holding you back. But the weeds are going to show up as well. So keep those in check, keep your own seeds in check.
Okay, so let's just talk real quick in this one. Again, you're going to have joys and you're going to have challenges. I think we talked a little bit about the challenges being, it could be your mindset. If you've kind of, your mindset has shifted to, it's too hard, I can't do this, then you got to reset that mindset. But that's some of the challenges. So just be aware. It's not to judge any of this. It's to be aware so that you can navigate and recognize, oh, I'm kind of having this mindset moment and I need to focus, readjust, nurture, and grow my mindset. That's exactly what this awareness does when you hit those challenges. And then the joys that you get is that all of this is within your control. The mindset, the decisions you make, the time you spend.
Right. Let's move on to reaping rewards. This is the equivalent to what we know as fall. And this is where we harvest our seeds and we enjoy the bountiful harvest that we've been nurturing and growing for so long. But be cautious, because just because you harvest what you've been working on does not mean that your growth stops.
Okay, so that is actually one of my favorite topics in the reaping rewards, is that people don't recognize it. It's not that people don't recognize it. My favorite part is the fact that you don't stop growing. It's the fact that you get to this season, and then there's this awareness, like, look how far I've come, and you can celebrate that and celebrate yourself and your accomplishments. But that isn't the end. That is really the beginning, because then you're going to continue to go through other seasons and you get to come back and reap more rewards from your efforts. So I love not only the reaping, but what I really love is that it starts you on a momentum if you recognize that it's just one cog in that change and that development that you get. And you celebrate that and you enjoy the work that you've done. And then you go out and you do continue to do the season. It could be just one season. You could go back to nurturing and growing, back to your summer. You could go right back to spring. You could go to winter. It's really, everybody's journey is different, and there is no wrong or right season. It's the awareness, because there is such power in celebrating your accomplishments, and then really coming back and recognizing how you got there and then repeating that again.
Let's take the example that we had been working with, our fitness routine. So we planted the seeds of our fitness routine. We nurtured that and grew that. We worked through the roadblocks. We started weeding out those people and places and things and those thoughts that have been holding us back. And we just kept showing up and kept doing the work and kept doing the work. And then one day you're going to stand in front of the mirror and you're like, here I am. Look what I did.
Yes.
You know, I'm not my perfect. I'm not my ideal, but I have come a long ways. Celebrate that. But that doesn't mean you're done working out. You can't stop now. You can't go to Cheesecake Factory now to celebrate. You've got to keep working. That's just another rung on the ladder. Celebrate throughout this journey. You know, we talk about when you get to fall, it's a time for celebration and enjoying your work, the hard work you've put in. But we also believe that throughout your spring, when you're done planting the seeds, celebrate it. When you weed something out, celebrate it. I'm giving myself high fives. All of these little steps,
okay.
you celebrate.
Do it often. We do it often. So
you know it's me. If you see me in festival and I'm looking for something, I'm like, oh, there it is. High five. Everybody looks at me funny, but you know, that's what life is about. You got to celebrate all of those little things.
Yes, you do need to celebrate finding the right can of beans at festival.
Sometimes you do. All right, so back to our reaping rewards.
Yep, and to Kelly's point, all of these seasons have their joys and their challenges. This particular season is about understanding when you celebrate your accomplishments and you recognize that, and there's an awareness, is that it's a two-sided coin. It's celebrating what you've accomplished and realizing and the awareness of what you've done to get there, and you repeat, rinse and repeat, and do that over and over again.
Maybe if you're familiar with some of the stuff we do, you're familiar with my analogy of the PAIR process, P-E-A-R. Process, evaluate, alter, repeat. Process, do it, evaluate. Take a look at what you're doing, alter it. If it's working, keep doing it. If it's not working, stop doing it, do something else, and repeat. Start it all over again. That's what this process is about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I hope that this has been valuable, these 3 seasons. And now we're going to talk about winter, the loss and cleansing season of winter. And this is your area that you love.
I don't know why I love winter, but I really do. Maybe it's the analogy of what winter represents. Because winter in nature is a time of death, a time of dying, a time of loss. Where we live, and I don't know about where you live, in winter, you look out the window and everything is dead.
And it's cold.
And it's miserable.
Dark.
But
it has positive
so
attributes.
Clean and so pure and so refreshing. When you step out into that cold air, even though you're standing around everything dead, there's something refreshing about it, something so cleansing about that winter air. And that's what this season is about. Now, your loss in winter might be literal. It might be the loss of a loved one. It might be figurative loss. Maybe you are lost in your thoughts. Maybe you have a feeling of abandonment or of aloneness of some kind, of struggle. So it might be figurative. Whatever the loss is, understand that somewhere in your life, a slate has been wiped clean. Wherever that is. Now that clean slate is setting you up for space for rebirth.
Yeah, and I was just having this image when you open up the windows in winter, which mostly is dark. But then when the sun does shine, for those that have been on a ski mountain or have been out on a really white, flat, crisp winter day, and then the sun radiates, I swear it's like 1,000,000 miles closer to the earth, and it's blinding, right? And you tense up and you squint your eyes. It's so blinding, it's almost somewhat painful, you know, and you pause, it's almost a shock. Sometimes winter and things happen and events happen and we kind of get that like shock shock. And sometimes people in winter kind of go through a phase of suffering. And we really want to state that winter is not suffering. Winter is understanding that there's a season for this time on our journeys where we do need to be aware that things are happening. The slate getting wiped clean. I love the analogy when we talk about most of the time when you're going from grade to grade to grade, like in school, most of the time you don't mourn the loss of second grade to go to third grade. Usually you're excited. You've grown and you've learned things. But for others, it is a loss. You might be leaving behind good friends or a good teacher. So it's just to be aware that loss is just part, and winter is just part of our ability to be aware and see joy and gratitude. There's a lot of gratitude in winter, and then be ready and prepared for the joys that come after winter.
And that's how we work you through the questions in winter too. And one thing important to remember about winter, like all of the seasons, is you cannot force yourself out of winter. Nobody likes to experience the pain of loss, either literal or figurative. But we must make space for that. We must allow that part to be in our life for a time. Now, the questions are going to walk you through this. What is the pain you experience from your loss? I ask you that. And that might be easy for you to answer. And then I'm going to ask you this: what are the benefits of your loss? Now, there are benefits. If it's the loss of a loved one, maybe it's knowing that they are no longer suffering and that they are in a better place. If it's the loss of a relationship or a job, maybe it's knowing that you are no longer under that stress and you don't have to carry that weight around with you anymore. Whatever it is, whatever loss you are experiencing, literal or figurative, there is a benefit for it. And I asked that question on purpose because if you are in winter and you focus on the pain of that loss, you're going to end up living in winter. If you are in winter and experiencing that loss and letting it be, but you start focusing on the benefits of that loss, and there are benefits, that's going to help prepare you for spring. That's going to help move you through winter so that you can move on to the next season.
Yes. And there's something to be aware when we talk about the questions on where do you believe you are and what season are you really in. No one can tell you that. Only you can go through this process and determine that. But it's very interesting because relationships, before they even end, can actually be in a winter. And then maybe when they end, that actually could be the start of spring. So for others, the ending of a relationship is coming out of another season and starting into a winter. So again, it's not right or wrong. It's being aware so that you're making decisions, not only in that particular area. So again, relationship being one area of your life, but you have all those other 7 areas, the totality of 8 areas in your life. But the idea is to just be aware. And like Kelly said, make space for, allow the process, allow yourself to feel, allow yourself to grieve, allow yourself to enjoy. I was going to say joyful, be joyful and enjoy. And then the last thing we talk about is the vision of what is yet to come for you.
Right. Now, in working through these seasons and the questions you see in the workbook, now is when you look back through the answers that you put in, and the puzzle pieces are going to start coming together for you. If you found that you are able to write more in one season over the others, chances are that's the season you're in. If you are able to, in each season, we ask about which area of your life is this season happening. If they are all in a very similar area, let's say most of it has to do with, let's pick spirituality, just out of the hat, then chances are that's an area of your life that is experiencing something that you need to pay a little bit more attention to. And that area of your life is maybe going through a specific season. Now, I want you to understand too, with these seasons, take us for example. I'm going through my own season. April's going through her own season. As a couple, we're going through our own season. Our family is going through its own season. Our business is going through its own season. We have lots of seasons happening under one roof. And so to be aware of that and being aware of where everybody is in their season helps not only them to move forward and continue to grow and develop and become a better person, but it helps us when we interact with this person to understand that, oh, you're going through summer, you're starting to weed out some stuff, or you need to weed out some of your friends or your places or whatever, or maybe you're ready for planting something new in your life. So being aware of not just your own, but those who are close around you can go far in developing that relationship.
And then the one piece that I wanted to add that I think you alluded to it at the beginning is that your season, and we talked about what they are and awareness of them, encompasses when you talk about like what is the season. We talked about it being you don't have to go in order, and there's 8 areas that you have a season in, and the length doesn't matter. But your season really has a lot to do with kind of where you are mentally, where you are physically, and where you are spiritually. And we had a kind of a long conversation about this, and we didn't want to complicate it for you because each area of the pie has an area for those particular focuses in your life. But you as a person are encompassed by all that, and your seasons will be affected. If there's any balance or imbalance, or maybe you are struggling in a particular mindset area. And if you're struggling on your mind and emotions, and you're in a particular season going through those changes, a lot of times that particular mindset affects your spiritual set, affects your ability to maintain your physical, but then it does kind of have a ripple effect on those other 8 areas. So it's just really, the whole point of that was to be aware that although we talk about the 8 pies individually, to be aware that you could be in a different season, that your overall mind, body, and spirit does have a ripple effect on where you are in your seasons.
Right. And finally, we're going to talk about our overall analysis. And that's what the last page of questions is for you in the workbook. And that's where it goes into what season do you believe you're in? And the season that we believe we are in, the season we want to be in. I desperately want to be in this season, but I might not be in this season in reality. Once I start looking through the answers that I gave for these last 4 seasons, I don't think that I'm in the season that I want to be in. So it's like April says, it's an awareness. I mean, that's really what this is. These aren't hard and fast rules. Rather, these are truths or principles and can be carried over to any life and any part of your life.
Awareness and the lack of judgment that you can do for yourself, which is where we like to be and get to in these workshops, allows you to actually support yourself in your own personal journey.
Yes.
I don't know what else to say other than do the right thing at the right time, and you will reap the positive benefits of permanent change. You will be more joyful and more compassion for yourself. I believe compassion comes from a lot of these awarenesses.
Right. I saw a sign the other day that said reverse karma is always doing the right thing, doing the good thing, but your life keeps getting worse. This is why. All right, so let's open it up. Are there any questions for us? Go ahead and unmute yourself, or you can type it into the little chat bar too.
Okay, if they do the chat thing, I got to figure out how to get the chat box up.
There it is.
There, got it. That was my problem last time. I had to get all technical. Well, we thank everyone for coming. Don't forget, if you don't have your download, to get your download. We hope that this was very informative, but also that you reap the rewards of knowing what season you're in and making the changes.
Absolutely. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I know there are a lot of different things you could be doing on a Thursday night, so we really appreciate you spending that with us.
So 2 things before we go. One is, you know how to get a hold of us. You can go to projectfindyourfire.com. Most of our contact information, you probably have got it already or know of us. If not, you can reach us at projectfindyourfire.com. And we will be having another event on May 2nd. That is a Sunday, and that will be Sunday evening, and we will send more information out on that topic. And if you have a topic, if we've talked about something not only in this session, or you're in a season and you have a topic that you'd like us to cover, we enjoy and take any of your comments or ideas, and we would be love to either chat personally or make a workshop.
You got it, because it's all for you. That's why we do this. All right, no questions, looks like. So thank you again, everybody, for coming. And until next time.
Until next time, live with passion.
Live with purpose.